Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Rolling along, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Mark Cuban will join us in a half hour on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Speaking of math, real quick.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Coach K tweets at us, I'm a math teacher. As a favor to a math teacher, replace billions with thousand millions when discussing net worth, and it sounds amazing. So basically, instead of saying that Jerry Jones is worth $5.6 billion, which is easy to sort of go in one ear and out the other,
right?
He's worth $5,600 million. He has $1 million 5,600 times.
I disagree completely with his premise. You tell me any number that I have something that begins with a B, I'm excited about that. You thousands, millions, whatever he said, thousand millions, no, does nothing for me.
He has $5,000 million.
Billions is way more impressive.
Meanwhile, we're getting a lot of reaction just quickly here on LiAngelo Ball and the other 2 UCLA kids who, according to the Wall Street Journal, are on a Delta flight headed back to Los Angeles. Now, what is some of the reaction?
Well, again, LiAngelo Ball, Jalen Hill, Cody Riley are the 3 players in question. And, well, I'll tell you, right off the bat, the tweets. Good lesson for those kids from UCLA. As long as you are an athlete, have an infamous parent, you can get away with about anything and keep your scholarship. Another one. End of it? Question. No suspension by UCLA. Another one. Why are we bailing these kids out? Let them rot in China for a week. No lesson learned. Next one. What type of punishment will these 3 players receive from Coach Alford? I believe they should at least be suspended for the next 5 games when they return to the state. So a lot of people saying, okay, what really happened to these guys? If, in fact, did they do what they did? Are they being let go because, our president talked to their president and got a little bit of, special work going on there? I don't know that because you hear – I remember my dad used to say, and we've heard, Herm would tell us that in the breaks at time we were talking about this. I remember my dad said, you guys ever get, tossed in jail for the night for something, you don't call, you're staying there for the night. You always hear that, staying there for the night. Listen, I had that happen with my son Mike. I mean, Mike, when he got arrested for underage drinking at Notre Dame, he went into jail. I had someone get him out. I didn't let him, it all sounds good until it happens, and then all of a sudden your kid is there, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get my kid out. And you get them out. So I get those that are wondering, because anytime some people don't get special treatment and they see others that do, they always think, okay, unfair to us, or, that these people get it and we don't. Where's the punishment in this? The one thing I will say is I don't know if I would go so far into this one to say, let them stay in a jail over in China. You're talking about a different country. You don't know what they did if they did this was incredibly stupid anywhere, to walk in anywhere and take something that's not yours. But to do it in another country that play by a different set of rules, normally tougher rules than our rules, is just inexplicably dumb. Okay? So to say, let him stay over there in that jail or whatever for a week or so, that I wouldn't agree with. And especially if it's your kid, you're trying to get them the hell out of there. As who was it that came on the show? I think it was Bomani. Get on a plane. Get on a plane. Do what you got to do. Say what you got to say to get on the plane to get home. And deal with it once you get home. Because I would never go that far to say, oh, I'm going to teach my kid a lesson. He's going to stay in that foreign country for as long as they need him to be for a week so he can learn a lesson. I get the lesson and the scare tactic, but there's steps for me, and that might be a little far when I don't know what their rules are. Now, I don't know what's going to happen to these guys when they come back from their school. We'll have to wait and see.
Right. I'm with you on everything you just said. I would do the same thing. If my kids did something that stupid in China, I'd be angry and disappointed, but I would be trying to get them the heck out of China.
Yeah.
But now there should be consequences.
Right.
I mean, this has been an incredibly embarrassing circumstance. Some people will say it's a national embarrassment. I don't know how many people feel ownership of this, but one way or another, it certainly made a lot of people look bad. So I have to believe there will be consequences, Mike. It could come, I suppose, from the NCAA. It could certainly come from the conference, and I would imagine it'll come from the school. What sounds like an appropriate thing?
The school should be. Listen, you went over there representing your school, basketball, the NCAA.
Well, I know the Pac-12 commissioner commented on this.
Your school should be first and foremost. Wait a minute, you're coming home over there as part of UCLA, and you guys did this to embarrass your school, your names, the basketball, the NCAA, United States, wherever you want to go with it. As far as people want to take that, to me, it should come from the school. Without question, the school should call up whoever at the NCAA, I don't know who you call them these things, and say,
Mark Emmert,
you know what, we got it. It's just like what Herm would say. You know what, when he had the issue with some of his players, he'd call up the commissioner and say, I know you may got to do what you got to do, but I got this one. I'm going to handle it.
So
and
what?
That's exactly what you – well,
what?
It would be a suspension.
How long? What is the appropriate punishment for allegedly stealing sunglasses in China?
That I don't know. And I don't know, do we know the truth here? Did they do it? Are they just getting special treatment to get out of there? Or did they not really do it? Are we never going to know this? So I'm sure that's all taken into consideration. I can't put a number on it. I'm not close enough to the situation. But I think I am in agreement from those that are tweeting in. You need to be held accountable. Well, some people say, well, they've been held accountable enough by having to stay there. They didn't play in the game. They had to stay over there for a few extra days. Some will say, is that punishment enough? Others will say, no, that's not. So I don't know. But to me, if they were guilty of something over there and they got out of Dodge, which, again, we would all try and get our kids out of there should be some discipline coming from UCLA.
I mean, I think if they were arrested for stealing sunglasses in a store in L.A., they'd be suspended.
They'd be suspended, yes.
So I think going and doing it in another country while you're representing the school and the conference and whatever else it is you're representing is a bigger deal than that.
I would agree.
So I have to believe. Now, again, the circumstances are what they are. Someone will get to the bottom of the facts, and we're just trying to piece together whatever it is we think we know about what happened.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if the facts are what they appear to be, I would find it startling if there were not fairly significant suspensions attached to
Agreed.
this.
Absolutely agreed. They played on Friday in China against Georgia Tech. Their next game is tomorrow against Central Arkansas, and then obviously the schedule starts. So, yes, it will be very interesting if they're on a plane now, and when they get home, then how they are dealt with once they get home.
All right, we'll see. Anyway, they, again, according to the Wall Street Journal, are on a plane, a Delta flight, back to Los Angeles, and we'll have more with it from there. Let me get back to just quickly the issue of ranking, because I'm getting a bunch of different people messaging me that perhaps one suggestion that Jerry Jones considers himself the ranking NFL owner because he doesn't include families.
Right.
Meaning he has been the active owner of his team longer than John Mara has, longer than the current Rooney has,
right.
and others who've been involved. Willie Weinbaum sent me a note. Maybe he means that based upon the value of his franchise. His franchise is the most valuable.
Number one, yes.
Whatever it is, the question that is of interest to me is, what exactly is it that Jerry Jones wants? Chris Mortensen was talking about that yesterday.
What he wants, and he stated this both publicly and in a letter he distributed to owners, he wants transparency. And even though in May they authorized a committee to finish this deal, and that's what they're trying to do, he's basically saying there have been so many different circumstances, so many other problematic areas that he believes that they need to be transparent in every detail of this contract, and he doesn't believe that is happening.
So, again, I ask, in May they did this. So he's saying since then there have been other issues that have come up. I'm not sure. Is he basically saying he doesn't like the way Roger handled these, so we shouldn't pay him as much? I would
Is he saying, should we take a long look at the way we are doing business right now based upon where our business seems to be? Which is to say, I think anyone who pays close attention to this would agree that right now things are not going great for the National Football League on a variety of different levels. That doesn't mean they're about to close up shop in the next 2 weeks.
Stretch.
But it's been a rough year or so for the business. And maybe what Jerry is saying is the person who is in charge of the business that we have hired to be in charge of the business should face more scrutiny than he seems to be from the owners. If I'm reading this thing correctly, I feel like Roger Goodell is still basically built up all this equity, and I use that term advisedly, with all these owners because of the deal he got done for them in 2011. He made these guys a ton of money. And at the end of the day, that's what they care the most about.
Exactly. What goes in their pocket.
And they're more than willing to give him $40 million because he made them that times X. But there are so many things that have gone on since then that have not gone well. And just using the bullet point headlines of domestic violence, of the league's reaction to the CTE controversy, to now all of the issues with the kneeling and the way that's impacting sponsors and television ratings and everything else, that regardless of what side you fall on in any of this, I could see a legitimate argument being made, hey, things aren't going so great right now. Do we need to reassess the way we're doing this? Now, to your point, most of this was already happening in May.
Yes, it was.
Now, this year has gone, the start of this and the way this has gone, President Trump has brought an element to the kneeling controversy that did not exist last year. That was probably not foreseeable in May. And I think a lot of people believe that the Papa John piece of this was Jerry Jones related, that Jerry Jones was sort of the impetus of that to try and publicly criticize Goodell without himself having to do it, and the other owners are angry about that. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on here behind the scenes. So I don't think it's totally unreasonable for Jerry Jones to say, hey, should we be taking a close look at this? But I also can see the other side of it saying, we all signed off on this.
Yeah,
this is the way we decided to do this.
We're a committee. Nobody says that we're – just to think – that because it's a 6-person committee, they're not taking a close look at it. That's what they're doing, right? I mean, that's supposedly what they're looking into or what they're going over. And would it be a fair assessment to say to Roger Goodell, listen, you made $44 million, $35 million, whatever it was, and we're up to $14 billion a year. Should we reassess now with all the things that have going on? What if our number next year is $12 billion, $13 billion? 13.5. What if we lost some money? Should that be taken into consideration with your new deal? You were compensated for helping us make all this money. Should it go the other way if you don't? So I think that's why one of the reasons they're talking about putting, a structure in it of incentives to, incentives going all the way to the next negotiation. Are there games missed? Will the owners lose money anywhere there? All the way through there. So I think they are looking at it a little more. So, again, I don't think it's mutually exclusive from Jerry Jones' side to sit there and say, we need to change this and look at what's going on. Well, that's what the committee's for. You have committee members of your peers who have been put together to look into all this, not to just go in and negotiate a number, but to look at all the things and to possibly say to Roger Goodell and his people, listen, we're in a different time right now. We may need to take a step back and look at what's going on. And while Jerry is saying all the owners should be involved in this, I still understand they made a 6-person committee to look at it.
It isn't as simple as this, obviously, as what I'm about to say. But it is a unique dynamic where you have the structure that is set up in these sports where the guys who own the teams employ the commissioner, but the commissioner makes decisions frequently that they don't like. And again, so this is a terrible comparison, but it's the one that jumps immediately to my mind. Through most of my life, my parents owned a tiny little business. They owned a bookstore. And at any given time, they usually employed between like 3 and 6 people, depending on over the course of that time. And I can't imagine one of those people that my parents employed coming to my father and saying, we're going to start selling something else now. And my father saying, I don't like that idea. And him saying, well, tough. You hired me to work here. No, my father would not. Well, you're fired. I mean, it's just that simple. So if you're Jerry Jones, you're used to being able to say, no, this is the way I want to do this. You're fired. But that's not the way it works when you're in partnership now with the other owners and you employ this guy to make decisions you don't like suspending your best player even though the police decided not to bring charges against him. It is a complicated situation, and a lot of people are trying to act like that doesn't have anything to do with Jerry here. And I don't know otherwise, but it's certainly kind of tough to believe.
Oh, I think it's ridiculous to even think that it doesn't have something to do with that. So again, we'll see where it goes. As we say, billionaires fighting with billionaires. And I,
for one, like it. I can't explain why, but I like it.
I don't as much as you. I'm really interested to see where it goes. We saw the relationship with Roger Goodell and Robert Kraft after this whole thing with Tom Brady. Now I'll be not only interested to see with Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell, but Jerry Jones and the other owners. Now, not like we'll see anything, and not like anything bad is going to happen. They're not walking into an arena, with a shield and a sword and battling one another. They battle with lawyers and sternly written letters. That's what they do. So, nothing crazy I don't think is going to be coming of this.
Is the Eagles and the Cowboys this weekend? Don't they have the Sunday night game? I mean, that would be a good game for Roger Goodell to go to. I mean,
after they announce his extension, it would just $40 million a year.
I would just be. Oh, that could happen too.
Yeah.
But just to see them on the field together at the same time or whatever is Roger has he become persona non grata in Dallas the way he did in New England? I mean, New England, where the fans could not wait to boo him and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know.
Are they reacting similarly there with regard to this Ezekiel Elliott situation as they did in? See, I would think that would be hard to do because the Zeke Elliott thing, one way or another, stems
is about domestic
violence,
not a deflated
as opposed
football,
to deflated football,
which we all laughed at and said $25,000 fine for messing with the equipment. Let's move on our day. You don't say that with domestic violence, especially when the league has made some missteps in dealing with it. So you want to go heavy as opposed to light, and as we said, this started as domestic violence. Now it's procedure. So, but still, it stems from domestic violence. So I don't know if there will be the same, outrage from the fans there.
I agree. There is a marked difference, and anyone who doesn't know that should know that, and you should never get the impression that we don't think that. Right. The only thing is that, to your point, that's not what they're fighting over anymore.
No, it's not. No, it is not.
This has once again become about Article 46. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Speaking of fighting, little war of words that began with LeBron James' continued dislike for Phil Jackson spilled over onto the court a little bit last night in what was a very interesting NBA regular season game where the Cavaliers came from 23 down to beat the Knicks at the Garden. But it involved LeBron. So just to go very quickly through the circumstances here, after a game against the Mavericks recently, LeBron went out of his way to say, this kid should have been a Knick, which is to say Dennis Smith Jr., which is the kid that the Knicks passed on, who looks like a spectacularly talented rookie. And this kid should have been a Knick. And LeBron makes no bones about it, no secret about it. That's aimed at Phil.
It is.
He still hates Phil.
Yep.
He's not letting it go.
But when saying Dennis Smith Jr. should have been a Knick, caught in the shrapnel was
Frank Ntilikina,
right?
Who
they took,
that they did take, who the Knicks selected, and so Enes Kanter kind of rose to the defense of his teammate, which he should.
Yes.
So last night there's a little moment where LeBron and Ntilikina are kind of bumping chests on the court. It's not about to turn into a fist fight or anything.
No, it's
but
not.
It's obviously going on. It's more than nothing. I don't know how to quantify it. It's not nothing that's going on. And Kanter comes running right over, and he gets right in LeBron's face. And Golic says,
well, I said, hey, more power to him. He should be doing it. If nobody did, I would have questioned all of Ntilikina's teammates if they didn't, because it wasn't just a word back and forth. There was a little bit of elbowing and pushing between LeBron and Frank, and more on Frank's part as he was trying to take the ball out, and LeBron just standing in his way.
But pointedly standing in his way.
Without question, doing it on purpose.
Yes,
standing in his way. And Enes Kanter came running over there and got LeBron's face. He absolutely should have gotten his face and said, man, you ain't doing that to my guys. We're a family here. We're a team. And quite honestly, I'm surprised more of the teammates didn't do it. You see anybody messing with your teammate, man, you got to jump, and you got to jump quick.
So afterwards, we have interesting sound bites from both of the combatants, if you will. Here's Enes Kanter.
We fight really hard. We play with a lot of energy. But I'll tell you one thing. This team is really special. And you ain't coming to my house playing that water bottle flip game again. You know what I mean? I don't care who you are, king. What do you call yourself? King, queen, princess, whatever you are. You know what? We're going to fight. And nobody out there going to punk us. So we're just going out there, play our game. And I think we're just going to get better and better every day.
100% agree. Listen, he didn't go over there and Mike Evans the guy and blindside LeBron. He went over there and he got in his grill and basically said, quit messing with our guy. I'll be honest, if I have a teammate that doesn't want to do that, I don't want him as a teammate. I'm not saying you got to go over there and start to throw down unless that's what's called for, but you go over there and you defend your teammate. So end of story as far as I'm concerned. What he did was incredibly appropriate.
So that, but the comments then, of course, get
sure
relayed.
they do. Yeah.
This used to be my job. I know what this is. You're in one locker room. You get something spicy. You go running. In most NBA arenas, the locker rooms are not all that far apart from each other. You go running to the other locker room. You bring that quote to LeBron James, and here was his reply.
Connor said, and I'm going to quote it, You can call yourself king, queen, princess, wherever.
That's corny. He caught what? What does it? Say it again.
You can call yourself king, queen, princess. You're not going to punk us.
Well, I'm the king, my wife is the queen, and my daughter is the princess. So we got all three covered.
What happened with you and Ennis and Frank on that play there?
Nothing.
Make a dinner reservation?
Never that. Nothing. I mean, we got the win. That's. I'm not gonna get. I'm not gonna say that guy's name again. Anyways, next question, please.
Listen, I don't care. Mind it from both sides. Cantor, I don't mind what he said after the game, and LeBron. What's LeBron going to do? Say, oh, good one. I mean, he's going to do his thing, because it was actually a pretty funny line from Cantor, quite honestly.
The one thing I'll say, if you're LeBron, I wonder if looking back on it, because he tried to say, I wasn't talking about Frank. I was aiming that at Phil.
You can't help but not pulling Frank. You dragged him into it, whether you wanted to or not. You can say all you want about that was for Phil. You still dragged that player into it. He may not have thought of that at the time he did it. But he did it.
But it is sort of collateral damage. So I would think he might. I don't know. In an honest moment, he might regret that a little.
And I'm glad I haven't seen any, and I hope I don't see anybody that's jumping on Cantor for jumping in the grill of LeBron. I haven't seen any of that. I did hear from the Cleveland side, the broadcasters say, what's Cantor doing? He's not even involved in the play. Cantor's doing exactly what he should be doing, is what Cantor was doing. So
if he had run over there swinging, that would have been much too much. You go over there, you get in his face, and you say, hey, keep your hands off our guy.
Right.
This is sort of the way this stuff goes. It is just the right amount of vitriol on a basketball court to make it interesting and not make it unappealing.
There you go. Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home. Safe home.
All right. I made the comment earlier this morning as we wrap up what has been 18 years together. There aren't that many people who last 18 years in sports because it's just not that kind of a business. And one of those who has been maybe the most consistently interesting through all of that period of time joins us now. The owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban, is back with us on Mike and Mike. Good morning, Mark.
What's up, guys? So you're saying we're all old?
Pretty much, man. I mean, hearing some of the stories of people of how long they'd listened to us. I was in middle school when I started listening to you. Now I'm 27, married with a kid. We're like, oh, my God, how old are we? It's an unreal.
I know. Isn't it crazy? I mean, I hear those same stories. My dad took me to my first Mavs game when you bought the team, and I was 5. I was like, come on, man.
I remember one time you came here very early in your tenure, and you were a guest on SportsCenter, and I was the host, and we were walking around ESPN together, and I learned a lot of stuff about the business of it from that. And so let's talk about that. It feels like we are in a golden age of the NBA right now on so many different levels. It feels as though from the star caliber of the players, the relationship, if you will, between the league and the players, so clearly distinct from what we're seeing in the National Football League, where it feels as though the ownership, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, sort of embrace how public the players are in the issues that are important to them. How would you describe where we sit right now with this league?
I think the NBA has been brilliant. It started with David Stern and his first Twitter account and leveraging social media. You know, where other sports, I think, have kind of downplayed the value of the individual player, we've amplified it. We've really tried to get our players to embrace and use and accelerate our business with their social media accounts and their own personal brands. And so it's been symbiotic. So as any given player, Dirk's social media brand grew, LeBron, Steph, etc., so does the NBA. And I think that's where we've been unique. If you look at the social media presence of our players individually, starting at the bottom up rather than the top down, you'll see it's much more significant than any other league, and I think that's paid off huge dividends for us.
It's a great point. Was there a tipping point? Was there a point in the NFL now where we see the between the league and the players and some of the things going on? Did you guys have to work through that? Were there things that maybe we didn't see publicly that players and the league had to kind of work out as you were going through that social media thing?
I mean, if you go back to the early days of Twitter where, guys would be up late at night thinking they were sending a private message and it'd come out as a public tweet and everybody talk about how they were hacked, and there was all kinds of silly stuff. But that's just the growing pains of all social media. And so, we fell prey to that. And look, we went through our tough times when there was the malice in the palace, when people were talking about the league being too hip-hop. Those were challenging times for us, not because those people were right, but because they didn't understand who our players were, because our players didn't have a voice. Social media gave our players a voice, and our players took advantage of it. And so you got to know who each of these players are. And now you look to see what Steph or LeBron or even Dirk has to say when something happens. And that's made our league so much stronger. Because our players are unique and have their own individuality. And in any sports profession, talent drives everything. If you compare that to the NFL, with all the controversy right now, they don't have that platform. If the Dallas Cowboys or the Pittsburgh Steelers, my two teams, walked in front of me, I might be able to name three of them by seeing them. Otherwise, I'd have to introduce myself, and that's just a significant difference between us and other sports.
Mike and Mark Cuban, what do you make of all of that? I just mentioned your players are, it feels like, encouraged to be as public as they wish with the issues that are really important to them. It feels like right now that is the opposite in the National Football League, where they're having enormous issues from a business standpoint and otherwise. What is your take on that?
Well, going back to the social media and the lack of visibility of the NFL players, their only platform is when the cameras are on. And that's when their voice is the strongest. And so if they take a knee and everybody's watching for it, then whatever message they want to send, even though they can't control the narrative, they at least start a conversation. With us, LeBron James has 2 or 3 times as many Twitter followers as the president of the United States. When the cameras are on during any one given game, that's not a necessity for that. We don't have to talk there. We have better platforms to send a message. That's the difference between the two. And so I understand what the NFL players are doing and why they're doing it that way. And the NFL owners that just have a challenge in dealing with that.
How about on the court? The league, as we said, is in a great place. You've been in the headlines so much in the offseason where football usually takes charge, but the NBA was there. But on the court, and for you, it's a tough start this year for you, and we always talk about Golden State and where some of the other players have moved. But so for you, the frustration level of you trying to be, and getting Dennis Smith Jr., everybody loves this guy, so the building back up.
Yeah,
but
he's incredible.
To get back to the top where you want to be, all owners want to win, but, man, you certainly wear it on your sleeve. How frustrated are you into getting this team back?
You know what? I knew it was just a matter of time that we'd have to take a step back in order to go forward, and I didn't think it'd be this painful. Someone just came out and said, after the Spurs, we've had the fewest days in the loss column of any team in the NBA over the past 20 years, and so it's certainly new territory for us. But we think we're going to be able to turn around relatively quickly. We went from old last year to much younger this year, and our base being younger with Dennis, with Harrison, with Seth Curry, etc. We've just got a strong nucleus. So I think we're going to get back. And watching our games now, you can see where our youth has hurt us, and particularly Dennis is going to be phenomenal. But when you hand the keys to a 19-year-old, there's going to be challenges at the end of games, and we've lost some close ones at the end. But that happens now, but it pays dividends off in the long run. And hopefully, by the end of this year, we'll be on a roll, or next year we'll have it turned around.
Mark Cuban is with us. Another thing we were talking about this morning that you would have, I think, unique insight into is the dynamic. Right now there's an issue between Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell, and Jones is very upset. And I was making the comment that it's just a strange dynamic because at the end of the day, Goodell works for Jerry, but he can make decisions that Jerry doesn't like. And I go back to the earliest days of Mark Cuban's tenure in Dallas. I don't know if you know the exact number of dollars that David Stern fined you, but
no, it's in the millions.
It was in the millions. So can you sort of explain that dynamic when you hire him? Yeah.
Okay, so on one hand, the commissioner is supposed to be a buffer because you've got 30 in the NBA and 32 owners that you've got a buffer as they compete against each other, buffer with the bigger picture because not your business interest as an individual team or as an individual might not always align with the league. That's the business side. On the competitive side, we all know as owners that, it takes some luck and it takes some happenstance to be at the top of the league. Whether it was the Mavs, whether it was the Cavs, whether it was the Heat, whether it's the Warriors, things have to go right. And you know that you have guys are going to age out, guys are going to get hurt. So you have this point in time, particularly in football where guys get hurt more often, where you've got to take advantage of the opportunity. It doesn't last forever. And Jerry Jones knows that, and I don't want to speak for him, I'm just telling from my perspective. Jerry knows that with Dak and with Zeke, he's got this moment in time that he's got to take advantage of. And because, one bad tackle and either one of them could be out and the entire future of the organization competitively changes. And so he's fighting to get his team on the field when he's got the opportunity to really be good and win a Super Bowl. And that's what puts them at head-to-head. Because Jerry's got to take advantage of this moment of time. He's got to fight for it no matter what. And I think all the fans respect and recognize that that's the case. Roger Goodell, on the other hand, has got to balance everything else out. And so I've been in situations where I've had other owners try to kick me out. I've had David Stern want me out, and other owners, came in and spoke positively for me. And Jerry's going through it right now. He doesn't like the way discipline is handled. He knows more than everybody about the circumstances behind Zeke in this situation. And, the NFL and Roger on the other side is trying to manage the NFL brand, the fact that there's issues in terms of domestic violence, the fact that there's issues in terms of CTE. Roger Goodell has got a very difficult job right now, and Jerry Jones wants to win. He wants to get back to the Super Bowl for the first time in a long time, and that's what creates the tension.
And certainly with the NFL, while they make a ton of money, we've all just mentioned some of the things going on right now. One of the things you had mentioned, do you think it is coming to fruition that the oversaturation overall can hurt the product?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, I talked about it, a few years ago, and I think that's been the case. Look, I'm not saying the NFL is ready to implode today because of ratings. TV ratings are down across the board. But there's just a lot of different circumstances that when you put them all together, I think the NFL is very challenged. I think, getting to the top is hard. Staying at the top is even harder. And I think they took some things for granted, and it's backfiring on them now.
We always appreciate your time, and I always have to mention one of my favorite shows in Shark Tank. I just love that show.
I appreciate it.
How has it been with A-Rod on there? I mean, that's
he was great. I mean, honestly, and I've said this to Alex, I was a little bit concerned because I didn't know the depth of his business experience. We'd been friends for a few years, and we talked and had lunch, but we talked more about branding and talked, about sports or whatever, and didn't really get into depth with his business. And when he came on the show, he just nailed it. He did a great job. And so I was really happy, and I think it came across in the episodes he's been on.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic show. Just love it. And love the time you spent with us, too, Mark. We really
Mark,
appreciate it.
Over 18
years. And the same, guys.
Yeah.
And congratulations on a great run. It's, like anything else, it goes by quickly, and then at the end, you always reminisce, and it's always tougher. So, congrats on your run and everything you've been able to accomplish. It's always fun to come on the show. You're one of the few shows I'll travel for, getting me go to Fort Worth or wherever. So, it's really been special to be part of it. So I thank you for that.
Thanks for everything, Mark. Thank you very much. We do appreciate it. Mark Cuban, one of the most interesting people, whether we've always agreed or disagreed, he's always got something to say, and it's always worth hearing. And he did. He got up. I remember when the Super Bowl was in Fort Worth. That was the coldest I've ever been.
It was so cold. Yeah, and he came out there for us. It was very nice of him to do, but, man, it was cold.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive. Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Well, I'm delighted to have this opportunity to thank you guys for, I think, a remarkable partnership. And for a partnership that, in this kind of world, generally frenetic with negativism, you really provided a lot of entertainment, enjoyment, and meaningful conversation. I know how much I enjoyed listening to you every morning, take all the major issues in the sports world and present them, and you did it in a really, I think, unique way and a most interesting way. And I want to tell you how much I appreciated it. We didn't always agree, but that made the most interesting part of our relationship. You were great about sharing different thoughts, and I the same thing, and you always did it in a very classy and dignified manner. So nice going, guys. You brought a new dimension to sports broadcasting, lasted a long time, had a great partnership, and I wish both of you great success in the future. I know that you'll do remarkably well and continue to take and make a lot of people happy and enjoy what you do. And I really mean that. Really enjoy what you do. Nice going, guys. Good luck.
Very nice of him to
Bud
do.
Selig, for those listening on the radio.
How many times did he yelled at us on his treadmill watching us in the morning?
He would get up in the morning and he'd put us on every single day, for better or for worse. And I would get that phone call every now and again from Pat Courtney, who runs the media relations. And he'd say, "Bud wants to talk to you." But listen, what he said was right. We disagreed with a lot of things that he did.
Yes,
some of them he proved to be right, and we certainly I at least proved to be wrong. I was against some of the things that they did over the course of time, many of which, like the wild card and stuff like that, I proved to be completely wrong. And we had a very good relationship with him over the years.
Yes,
we both very much appreciate him taking the time to do that. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, that was very nice of him to do. It was.
Mike and Mike Golic, our sports
that's
center.
right. Yeah, let me
brought
do
to you
that.
by CT.
Why don't I do that? Time to upgrade your wardrobe with CT shirts, the most exquisitely crafted, British-styled, crease-free shirts you're ever going to wear. One CT shirt normally costs you $100, but we're going to get you 3 shirts for just $99. Go to ctshirts.com/Mike. That's ctshirts.com/Mike.
So Hembo gave us a trivia question. He didn't give us the answer. So there were 3 basketball players, 3 NBA players who were active, who were in the league at the time we started our show. 2 of them were pretty obvious.
Yeah, they were. It was Dirk Nowitzki and Vince Carter.
Okay. And then I just jotted down a name that I think is the third one, but I could be wrong, but it feels like he's been around that long. Is it Jason Terry? Okay.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, I just saw him the other night, and so that's what made me think of it. I don't even remember where I saw him, but I saw him just scrolling through the channels. He's at Milwaukee, and I remember thinking to myself, "Wow, he's still playing." So he's been around forever. He was the MVP, wasn't he? The MVP the year that they won the championship in Dallas. The year that they won the title with Nowitzki, I believe Jason Terry was the MVP of the series. He's 4 years younger than his head coach.
Wow, that is amazing.
They're probably in some places guys like McVay in L.A. There may be guys older than.
And one of those guys, Dirk, we got to spend time with down in Dallas. What a nice guy he was when he come sit on set with us and shooting free throws with us.
And they won the championship that year.
Yeah.
But many people don't remember. We went there. We had a very good relationship, a close relationship with Dallas in general because we owned that. It's hard to explain, but in the dynamic of business,
right,
the way this stuff worked, ESPN owned a few of the radio stations that broadcast our show, and that was one of them early on. So we went down to Dallas all the time, spent a lot of time down there, had a lot of fun down there.
Yes, we did.
You know what you'll remember? We went down there for like a Christmas thing, and they asked us to do an auction. Do you know the story I'm going to tell?
Oh, my gosh, yes. This was unbelievable.
And they give us, we're like auctioning off stuff to raise money for a charity. I don't remember what it was. And they give us a Cowboys helmet signed by Troy Aikman and Roger Staubach. And we're both thinking, oh, my goodness, this is going to go for millions. And we get up there on a stage in front of tons of people, and not one person bids.
Not one bid.
Not one. I've got sweat rolling down my back.
Stunning. And we both have been involved in auctions where tough crowd, But this we thought was a layup.
And so we literally get no bids. We finally walk off the stage. We hand the microphone back to the guy who's running the thing, and I'll never forget. He goes, all right, guys, I thought that went real well. And I've used that line a million times because it was just so funny in the moment. It was excruciatingly uncomfortable.
I still don't understand how that happened.
I don't know whatever happened to the helmet.
We loved it down there, except for when the Super Bowl was down there, and we were just absolutely freezing.
Coldest I've ever can remember being. All right, we'll be back with more fun tomorrow. Great night on ESPN. The hoops and the college football playoff and everything else. See you tomorrow. Mike and Mike.